Hello everyone, my name is Nidhi and today we will be throwing light on the last and the final chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which is the conclusion, the perfection of renunciation. It is a very long chapter with 78 verses in it, so we will not go too deep in this chapter, but we will discuss the gist of the chapter. So, from verses 1 to 12, freedom from bondage through Karma Yoga has been discussed, and verse number 1 starts with Arjun's inquiry on sannyas and tyag. In verses 2 to 6, Lord Krishna defines sannyas and tyag, and he gives two opinions on tyag and then his own opinion. So, I would like to quote this verse Kamyanam Karmanam Nyatsam न्यासम संन्यासाम कव्य विदु सर्वकर्म फल त्यागम प्रहुस त्यागम विकसनः, which means the giving up of activities that are based on material desire is what great learned men call the renounced order of life or sannyas, and giving up the results of all activities is what the wise call renunciation. Then from verses 7 to 9, renunciation has been established in three modes of material nature, and verses 10 to 12 say that the wise and the true renunciant and the result of not renouncing has also been discussed in these verses. Then from 13 to 17, the five factors of action have been discussed. From verses 13 to 15, causes of all right and wrong actions have been discussed. Adhishtanam, which is the body, Karta is the doer, Karanam is the senses, Cheshta is the effort, and Devam is the super soul. From verses 16 to 17, doership and non-doership mentalities have been discussed. And from 18 to 19, three motivators and three constituents of action have been discussed. Verse 20 to 22 talk about knowledge in three modes, 23 to 25 talk about work in three modes, and 26 to 28 talk about worker in three modes. These three modes that we are talking about here are the three modes of material nature, which is Rajas, Tamas and Sattva. Then we come to verses 29 to 32, in which intelligence or understanding buddhi has been explained in three modes, and 32 to 35, determination or dhriti has been explained in three modes. Verses 41 to 44 talk about the four social orders and their qualities, which are the Brahmans, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas and the Shudras, and what their qualities are. Then from verse 45 to 48, importance of sticking to one's prescribed duty has been laid stress on. Verses 49 to 53 talk about the perfect stage of sannyas and the process of attaining Brahm. Then verse 54 to 55 talk about the Brahmbhuta stage to bhakti, by which one can know Lord Krishna and can attain his abode. Here I would like to quote verse number 18.55, which says one can understand Krishna only by bhakti. This verse says bhaktya mam abhijayanti yavan yaschashmi tatvatah tato mam tatvato jnanatvah vishate tad anantaram, which means one can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Now, coming to the next verses, from verse 56 to 60, working in Krishna consciousness and not working in Krishna consciousness has been explained. Verses 61 to 63 talk about surrendering to the super soul, which is more confidential knowledge than the confidential knowledge we had discussed earlier. And verses 64 to 66, they talk about surrendering to Lord Krishna, which is again the most confidential knowledge. And here I would like to quote one verse, which is 18.61, which says super soul in the heart directs the jiva. So this is Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hrideshe Arjuna Tishtari Brahmanya Sarva Bhutani Yantra Drudani Mayaya, which means the Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjun, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of material energy. Then verses 64 to 66 again talks about surrendering to Lord Krishna, which is the most confidential knowledge. And the final conclusion is in the last verses, in which glory of studying and teaching Bhagavad Gita has been mentioned. And here I would like to quote one verse, which is 18.71, which is result of faithful hearing of Bhagavad Gita, which says Shraddhavan Anushyase cha Shranuyad api yo naraha so api muktah subhal lokan prapnuyapat punya karmanam. Any and one who listens with faith and without envy becomes free from sinful reactions and attains to the auspicious planets where the pious dwell. Now verses 70 to 73 discuss about realizations of Arjun, and 74 to 78 talk about realizations of Sanjay. So in verse 18.78, presence of Krishna and Arjun is all auspicious. And here the verse is Yatra Yogeshwara Krishno Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhutir Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. Wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. That is my opinion. This is the end of chapter number 18, Bhagavad Gita, and with this, we also come to the auspicious end of the listening of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time. May God bless all.